Last episode we took this and this, made this, to put in here to build this, so that this episode we could make this and hopefully get it done in time to go here. We wasted no time getting the engine and transmission and the front end stripped off of this thing. Knowing it was the last time this motor had to come out for it to get cleaned up was a really nice feeling. At this point, we started to get all the gaps set, adjust all of the doors, and get this thing ready to go into bodywork. I've been doing this job long enough to know what the effects of using a bad product can be on your final project. So when KBS came to us with their new line of fillers and primers, I was a little skeptical. But this is now our third project we've done with it, and I wouldn't use anything else. I like to lay down tape on all of my body lines, all of my seams. This assures that all those body lines come out straight. And once that's done, Amy goes around the entire project with a bright light and fills every little teeny pinhole or scratch she can find. Easier just to start out and do it all right the first time. I mean, the last thing you want to do is be pulling this thing out of clear coat and find some little dinger that you missed. Now that the smoke is clearing, I think we're actually ready to get this thing in, get it sprayed in some primer. To assure the best finish, we'll block sand this one more time with some guide coat, and she'll be ready for paint. We sprayed all the suspension parts with one more coat of KBS top coat. Give it that nice satin freaking finish. Looks beautiful. Get everything greased up, tightened up, locked down, torqued exactly the way it's supposed to be, because this is the final assembly and the last time we'll be putting these coilovers together on this thing. With only 2 people working here at the shop, there is no time to be wasted. If you notice in the background back there, there's Amy taping away, getting ready for the next step of the process. With the suspension done and the entire car sitting in a new coat of gray primer, we are just one block sand away from a fresh coat of Summit Metallic Silver. Man, the paint laid down so nice, it's almost a shame we're going to have to wet sand this thing to add all the graphics. With all the time we spent on making this an enjoyable ride, we figured it might as well be cool and quiet as well, so Thermatech stepped in and helped us out with that issue. Knowing that we had a lot of fuel, brake fluid, oil, wrenches flying around, and a lot of wiring to do on this vehicle, we decided to leave all the fenders and doors off to the side for now till we got all these mechanicals done. With the Pinto safely tucked away over in the mechanics bay, waiting for the paint to cure up, we decided it'd be a good time to deal with the bumpers, get those polished up. We still had a lot of other little odds and ends to deal with as well. The headlight buckets needed to be blasted and repainted. We had tons and tons of nuts and bolts to deal with. Mirrors, venting, all of the bezels for the inside, interior parts. Hell, we still had bees stuck up inside the rear view mirrors that had to be handled. With the paint department under control, I set Amy loose on the wiring on this thing. It was her job to make sure that when you hit the button, this thing started. When you hit the pedal, the lights came on. Make sure all 14 miles of wiring had the correct shrink tape on it, the correct connectors. I'm just really glad somebody's got the patience to do it. Because while she's in there doing that, I get to come out here with some KBS stainless and satin black to pretty up this motor. With Amy running the boom, we set it the task of dropping this heartbeat back into this car. 13 times you think it would just drop right in nice and smooth, but she is still tight fit. With Amy finishing up the wiring and the motor actually in, it is really hard to not just pull in there and crank this vehicle over. But I absolutely refuse to start a new build without a good set of brakes. So I had to get all of that stuff settled. Last thing I want is to hit the start button and have this thing shoot out the back of the garage.
First time on her own shoes. Woohoo!
One of my favorite parts of the build is putting all those pieces we fabricated back together, having all the nice shiny clean paint, and man, it's really nice to go home freaking once in a while without having to immediately take a shower and scrub 4 inches of grease, rust, and dirt off your hands. This little box, by the way, houses probably one of the most powerful and lightest lithium-ion batteries ever. Thanks, E3. Anytime you talk to somebody about their vehicle, they'll sit and brag about how cool the paint is, how nice the chrome is, how much horsepower their motor has. But what part of the car do you touch, feel, and stare at the most? It's the interior, and if that don't look right, you got nothing. That being said, Amy spent hundreds of hours completely redoing the interior of this car. Every single piece of plastic had been sanded, every crack fixed, the dash recovered, new carpet, the seats recovered with new foam. Every single little piece, every screw was polished, all the stainless redone. We modified the door sills, put in a new headliner, and she built probably one of the coolest cargo mat areas I think I've ever seen. Well, the wait is over. It's finally time to hear this baby roar. Or not. After checking the wiring, making sure the fuel injectors were firing, I decided I'd rather just throw some old-fashioned ether in there and check her out. If she were to fire when I did that, that means she ain't getting fuel, and we need to deal with that fuel pump. We called up Chris Squire over at Hotwire. He reminded us that the computer sends a signal to the original Mustang pump, telling it to turn on only when it needs pressure. Our pump, on the other hand, constantly pumps with a return line circulating the fuel at all times, so we needed to make sure that thing had constant power when the key was on. Eureka! Fuel pump it is.
Did what?
Started again.
Oh, I thought you said it did it again.
Yep.
Do we have enough fuel?
Alright, so after a little bit of troubleshooting, a quick couple conversations with Chris Squire over at Hotwire, went through a couple things, and this is what we got. The fuel pumps for a second, gauges are coming on. Put it in. So it takes a few seconds. I should have given it another second or two for the fuel pump to get fully up to pressure because it takes a second. But other than that, we are happy, and we'll actually put some exhaust on next time.
Woo!
Alright, so she's going to take her first maiden cruise under her own power out of the one shop side over to the other side so we can start graphics and final assembly. Brake lights are hanging up. Oh, he's going too fast for me. Great.
Just when we thought the sanding was over, we finished up the last little bit of satin black on the interior parts, got them mounted on the car, and broke out the 1000 grit wet sandpaper. and to knock all this clear down and get it ready so we could start putting those sweet 78 Pinto graphics back on this thing. Here's the colors we were going to use. We added a little bit of pearl, but otherwise they were about as close to the factory colors as we could come up with. We first laid out everything we would need for the black on the bottom. The only change that I made from the original paint scheme was changing the tailgate area and adding a blacked in panel back there, because I just really didn't like how the stripes came across and didn't meet up with anything. With the black laid out, we began the 3-day task of laying out all of these stripes meticulously, realizing very quickly that the engineers at Ford had figured out a few things that we thought we could get away without doing. We layered up all the masking so we could simply spray a stripe, tape it off, peel it, spray a stripe, peel the next one. It worked out really nice. Now you get to see the final product. So after 3 more coats of really heavy clear, it was finally time for its last bit of sandpaper. We're going to knock this thing 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, and 3,000 and start buffing. Well, here she is, people, getting ready for her trip to Vegas to be a star. In about 3 days from now, she'll be sitting on the show floor with 140,000 people gawking. Okay, one last